Hello again. Today's lesson is on the properties of three-dimensional shapes. The first thing we'll be looking at are 3D polyhedrons. Those are called prisms and pyramids. We'll also look at circular 3D shapes such as cylinders, cones, and spheres. We'll learn to name polyhedrons. We'll learn the parts of a polyhedron and the cross-sections of all 3D shapes. We can have 1, 2, and 3-dimensional shapes. 1-dimensional shapes are measured in length, such as a line. Another example of a one-dimensional measurement is perimeter or circumference, since it is the length around an object. 2-dimensional shapes are measured in length and width. For example, rectangles have length and width, triangles have a base and a height or a length and a width, as well as parallelograms and trapezoids. Circles can also have an area, so they are 3-dimensional shapes. Area is 2 dimensions, as mentioned earlier in the past lesson. 3-dimensional shapes are measured in length, width, and height. Here are some examples of 3-dimensional shapes. We'll be looking at the different names for those in this lesson. Notice that you can measure the volume of a 3-dimensional shape. Volume is a 3-dimensional measurement. We could also measure the surface area of a 3-dimensional shape. There's 2 types of polyhedron, 3D solids with straight edges. The 2 types are called prisms and pyramids. Prisms have 2 bases and rectangular faces. Some examples are this rectangular prism. It has 2 rectangular bases and rectangular faces. This is an octagonal prism. It has an octagon base, or 2 octagonal bases and rectangular faces. There are 8 rectangular faces. And this is a triangular prism. We know that this is a prism because it only has 2 triangle bases. If it had more than 2 faces, it would have to be a pyramid. But because it has 2 triangular bases, we know it must be a prism with rectangular faces. Pyramids, on the other hand, have 1 base and triangular faces. This is a triangular pyramid. This is a square-based pyramid and a hexagonal pyramid. Pyramids come to a point. There are 3 types of circular-based 3D solids: the cylinder, the cone, and the sphere. The cylinder is similar to a prism because it has 2 bases. However, it does not have rectangular faces. A cone is similar to a pyramid. It has 1 circular base and it comes to a point. A sphere is a special solid because it has no base. However, it is circular-based in a sense. How do we name a 3D polyhedron? Well, 3D shapes are named by their base shape and whether they are a prism or a pyramid. For example, this has a rectangular base and it is a prism because it has rectangular faces. This shape has a hexagonal base. It is a pyramid, so we call it a hexagonal pyramid. This shape has a triangular base. There are only 2 triangles, a triangular prism. There are a few special solids. For example, a cube is a special solid because it has 6 square faces, all of equal area. A tetrahedron is a special solid because it has 4 equilateral triangles, all making 1 pyramid. A sphere is also a special solid. There are parts of 3D shapes. 3D polyhedrons are made up of faces, edges, and vertices. The parts of a 3D shape can be seen here on this cube. If you notice, a cube has 6 square faces. The edges are the lines along the edge of the cube. There are 12 edges and 8 corners. Another name for corners is vertices. Here's a rectangular prism. A rectangular prism also has 6 faces. However, they are not all of the same area. It has 12 edges and 8 vertices. A triangular prism has 5 faces. 2 of the faces are triangles, while 3 of the faces are rectangles. The 2 triangle faces can also be called bases. There are 9 edges and 6 corners, or 6 vertices. A cylinder has 2 faces. The circles are considered their faces, 1 curved surface and 2 edges. There are 0 corners. A cone has 1 face, the circular base, 1 curved surface, 1 edge around the circle, and 0 corners. A sphere has 0 faces, 1 curved surface, 0 edges, and 0 corners. We can also create cross-sections with 3D shapes. When thinking of a cross-section of a solid, think about cutting a cake. We can cut through a cake or a solid with a horizontal cut, a vertical cut, or an oblique cut. To understand cross-sections, please watch the attached video. It has excellent illustrations of cross-sections. Some helpful tips to consider when watching the video of cross-sections is that a horizontal cross-section of a 3D solid will always give you a top view of the solid. A vertical cross-section of a solid will give you a side view. An oblique cross-section of a 3D solid will depend upon the shape of the solid, so it has to be looked at carefully. In summary, for today's lesson on the properties of three-dimensional solids, we saw that three-dimensional solids have length, width, and height. 3D solids can be classified by their bases and their faces. There are 3 circular base solids: cylinders, cones, and spheres. 3D polyhedrons have faces, edges, and vertices. A horizontal cross-section is the top view of a 3D solid. A vertical cross-section is the side view of a 3D solid. Thank you for listening, and I hope you will be able to log into quizzes and answer the questions that are presented there. Have a great day.